Quote, in the days before they filed the sentencing recommendation for President Trump's friend Roger Stone, the prosecutors on the case felt under siege. A new boss, Timothy Shea, had just arrived and had told them on his first day that he wanted a more lenient recommendation for Mr. Stone. The prosecutors grew suspicious that Mr. Shea was helping his longtime friend and boss, Attorney General William Barr, soften the sentencing request to please the president. In an attempt to ease the strain, David Metcalf, Mr. Shea's chief of staff, clasped his hand on the shoulder of one of those prosecutors, Aaron Zelinsky, as they passed in a hallway. But the gesture prompted a terse and sharp verbal exchange. As word of the spat spread throughout the office, unfounded rumors swirled that the altercation had been physical. As the president declared on Twitter that the government was treating his friend, Mr. Stone, too harshly, Attorney General William Barr quickly intervened to recommend a lighter sentence for Mr. Stone. Within a day, Mr. Zelinsky and 3 other prosecutors quit the Stone case. Joining us now is reporter Katie Benner, who covers the Justice Department for the New York Times and who shared a byline with Adam Goldman on that scoop. Ms. Benner, I really appreciate you making time to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So, to be clear, something happened in the hallway that other people thought might have been a fist fight, but it wasn't?
Yeah, and I think that just sort of goes to show how tense things were, because generally in an office full of attorneys, nobody is really worried about physical altercations.
Yeah. I have to ask, just in broad strokes, I am completely obsessed with what's going on in the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., and I can only follow it through reporting like yours and from what we're able to see in the public record. In your time covering the Justice Department, how unusual would you say this situation is that you're reporting on now at that U.S. Attorney's Office?
I think it's hard to overstate how unusual things are. And for your viewers, let's take a step back. It's a very important U.S. Attorney's Office. It's huge because it covers both federal cases for the district, but also serves cases in the District of Columbia. So you have a very interesting mix of some of the biggest national cases and really important local cases. And it also sees a lot of political cases because of its location in the country. So it's an extremely important district, and it's always been treated kind of with kid gloves. You didn't want political interference in this office in particular because of how sensitive some of the work has been. So to have a situation where not only do you have the president making public remarks about the quality of the work there and asking for specific outcomes, and then to have a situation where the Attorney General acts and takes action just after those public comments are made, I think caused a stir, not just in that office, but in prosecutors' offices all over the federal prosecutors' offices all over the country, as people wondered, okay, well, what is this a signal of?
The other part of this, not only Jesse Liu being replaced, not only the president calling for specific outcomes, and then the Attorney General seeming to act, if not at the direction of the president, at least in a way that is congruent with the president's expressed wishes. But there is also this remarkable reporting that in an ongoing way, there is an external team of prosecutors, of lawyers that have been brought in at the Attorney General's request who are still there, who are still working in an ongoing way on a number of politically sensitive cases. Do you have any sense of the scope of what their remit is, or how many of these D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office's cases they might have their fingers in?
First, we should note that this isn't the first time that this has happened under the Trump administration. We have to stretch back in time to when Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General. We also saw very politically sensitive matters, including this call amongst congressional Republicans to relitigate investigations into Hillary Clinton. The Justice Department struggled with what to do with those cases and what to do with those calls for action. They felt that they needed to be addressed, that they couldn't out of hand say to the president and to his supporters on the Hill, hey, we're going to ignore this altogether. So they found other ways to deal with it. For example, by farming out that research and farming out that investigation to U.S. attorneys' offices far away, for example, in Utah. We see the same thing happening now with Rudy Giuliani, where it's like how we have to deal with the fact that the president's own personal lawyer wants us to take sensitive information and look at it, even though we think it could be wrong. We cannot out of hand reject that. So instead, we're going to have a different prosecutor's office in Pennsylvania look at it and assess it. And for example, the Utah case is still ongoing. It's never been closed. But as far as we can tell from our reporting, nothing is going to happen there. So we have a situation where for the entirety of the Trump administration, the department has struggled to figure out what to do with the president's desires and demands transmitted via the president himself on Twitter and then through his allies on the Hill, which takes us to the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. Roger Stone, Michael Flynn, Eric Prince. These are very, very, very important cases to the president for various reasons. He has publicly said he would like specific outcomes in them. He has said that he believes that, for example, Stone did nothing wrong, that Flynn did nothing wrong, and that these outcomes need to be changed. And so you have a situation where it is, we don't know why. There are different ways to look at it. You could say that Barr has decided to bring in, for example, an outside prosecutor from the U.S. Attorney's Office in St. Louis to oversee Flynn and to sort of re-look at the Flynn case and see if mistakes were made. On the one hand, it could feel very much to prosecutors in that office like their work's being undermined and like they are being politicized in a way that makes them very upset. And in another way, you could say, or is this the Justice Department basically going through the motions to do something because they feel that they must, but that it won't really change the outcome? And it feels like ever since Jeff Sessions was the Attorney General, we've been asking ourselves this question.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.